Hello, good morning. My name's Annie and I have the popular keto cooking YouTube channel, Keto Focus. I also have a website where I like to share all of my delicious keto recipes. It's called ketofocus.com. I also work full-time as a pharmacist. I'm a wife and busy mom to 2 growing boys, so I like to specialize in family-friendly keto recipes. Today, I'm going to share with you guys a breakfast recipe. We're going to be making keto breakfast pizza. You guys should have all of your ingredients set and ready to go so that you can cook along this pizza with me. Let's get started. We're going to start by preheating our oven. So come over here to the oven. You're going to preheat your oven to 400 degrees, and while that's preheating, we're going to move on to cooking our bacon. I'm going to be frying up our bacon today, but you could put it in the oven and bake it in the oven if you want to. One of my meal prep tips is to bake your bacon on Sunday if you like to meal prep. Do a whole package, and then you can just use it throughout the week for an easy breakfast. Another tip, I like to put in a bunch of bacon like this and fold it over. That way you can get a lot of bacon in your pan to cook. Otherwise, it doesn't really cook as well if you're doing strips. You can't get as many in the pan. So we're gonna need about 6 slices of bacon. While our bacon is cooking, I'm gonna start making the pizza dough. So this is a fathead dough pizza, and we're gonna be using mozzarella cheese and almond flour and a few extra ingredients to provide support. I have the full recipe on my website, ketofocus.com. In here, I have 3 cups of mozzarella cheese, and we're gonna microwave this at 1-minute intervals until it's melted. If you don't want to melt your cheese in the microwave, you can put it in a nonstick skillet and cook it that way. It'll melt just perfectly. While that's melting, we're gonna move on to the rest of our fathead dough ingredients. I'm gonna be using a food processor to mix up my fathead dough. If you don't have access to a food processor, you can use an electric mixer, or you can just knead the dough together by hand. The food processor is so much easier. The dough comes together super quickly. So in my food processor, I'm gonna add, this is 1 1/4 cup of almond flour. I have 1 egg. And then I'm also gonna use a tablespoon of baking powder, a tablespoon of xanthan gum, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Now in this recipe, I don't like to add any cream cheese. Cream cheese is just added to baked goods just to provide structure and support. We already have enough of that with the mozzarella cheese that we're gonna add and the xanthan gum, so there's no need to add additional calories, even carbs, to this recipe by adding the cream cheese. It works just beautifully without it. This is after 1 minute of cooking the mozzarella cheese. It's not quite melted, so I'm gonna add it in there for another minute. I like making fathead dough. A lot of times I'll do it during meal prep day. You can double the batch, triple the recipe. It actually freezes really well. So it's something that I always like to have on hand because you never know when you want to have pizza. You can use fathead dough for other things too if you want to use it as like a bread replacement. Some people use it to make cinnamon rolls or some sweet pastries besides just savory pizza bread or breadsticks. Our cheese is nice and melted. Now we're gonna add it to the rest of our fathead dough ingredients. You mix this together until it forms a dough ball and it starts to roll around in your food processor. So everything is nicely incorporated together. Just make sure you get all of your dough. And now it's time to roll it out. I killed the heat on the bacon and we just wanted to cook it until it's nice and crispy. So we're gonna take this out and let it cool, and then we're gonna chop it up. A little tip I have when it comes to rolling out your fathead dough is to lay down a wet piece of paper towel or wet cloth, and then you're gonna roll it in between 2 sheets of parchment paper. I like using parchment paper just because it's disposable, plus I can leave my fathead dough on the bottom sheet of parchment paper and bake it just like that without having to transfer it to a different tray. And on goes the top layer of parchment paper, just kind of smash it down, and then we're gonna start rolling. And depending on how thick you like your pizza, I've rolled this to maybe around 1/4 of an inch thick. If you want it thinner, then roll it out thinner. If you like a thicker pizza crust, then keep it quite thick. Take off your top layer. And now we're gonna move on to our toppings. For the sauce that goes on this pizza, it's gonna be a ricotta based, like garlicky cream sauce. So in a small container, I have, this is a 1/4 cup of ricotta cheese. If you don't wanna use ricotta cheese, you could use cream cheese. That would work just as well too. And it's gonna be a garlicky sauce. So you could use 2 teaspoons of garlic cloves if you want, that's minced up really finely, or some garlic paste if you wanna turn it into a paste. I'm just gonna be using a garlic sauce. This is a pre-made garlic paste that I just purchased from the store. It's a good shortcut to use if you don't want to have to be mincing up some garlic. So we're gonna add just a couple of teaspoons of this to our ricotta cheese. And then a little bit of salt too. So this is about 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. And we're gonna mix this together. This is a super simple white sauce if you like to have white sauce on your pizza. Now I'm not gonna add my sauce just yet. You could if you wanted to, you could spread it on, but I'm actually gonna be adding some of my toppings. So I'm gonna put my cheese down first and then my bacon. So for cheese, since this is a white sauce pizza, I always like to have white cheese, which is mozzarella cheese on that. So I'm actually just gonna be spreading my mozzarella cheese down first. This is 1 cup of shredded mozzarella cheese, and we'll just move that around until it's evenly spaced. And then next we'll add our bacon. We're gonna chop our bacon up into little slices. And if you didn't want to use fresh bacon, you could probably use prepackaged bacon crumbs. That's another shortcut too. Some people don't like to use those because they do have preservatives in them. All right, and then we just sprinkle this right on top. Another idea you could use instead of bacon is to use ground up sausage, or if you have any leftover steak, you could put that on this pizza as well. Any sort of leftover meats that you have, just make a really good breakfast pizza in the morning. Now comes our sauce. We're gonna add this onto the pizza. Now, what I like to do is just do little dollops of sauce all over the pizza. Just because I think it's really tasty when you take a bite of this pizza and you just get like this little area that has a lot of garlicky, creamy garlicky flavor. But like I said before, if you wanted to just paint this on your pizza crust before you add the cheese, you could do that too. All right. And I like to add a little bit of spice to the pizza, so we're gonna add some crushed red pepper flakes. So you don't want to add too much. It just kind of depends on your level of spice that you want to use. This is about probably a little bit larger than 1/4 teaspoon, but just sprinkle that on top all over. That's probably enough. But it just depends on your taste preferences if you like spicy or not. And then finally, I'm gonna add a little bit of Parmesan cheese on top, just to give it a different cheese flavor. So this is just grated Parmesan cheese. About 3 tablespoons of Parmesan cheese goes onto the top. So we can transfer this to a baking tray. I'm gonna just fold my crust over a little bit because I just feel like it, but you can cook it just like this too if you want. Okay, so this is gonna go on a baking tray. You can bake this on a pizza stone too. If you just have a plain baking tray, a pizza tray, whatever you wanna use. It's gonna go in the oven in the middle rack at 400 degrees. We're only gonna bake it for 4 minutes because we're gonna be adding egg to this pizza. And keep your pizza on your parchment paper too. This is gonna prevent it from sticking to your pan. So into the oven we go. This makes a really good recipe if you like to meal prep or just have an easy, ready-to-go breakfast in the mornings. It makes a huge pizza. 1 slice is really probably gonna fill you up, but you might do 2 as well. But it's a really good recipe to have on hand because you could just take it on the go if you're running late for work, so you don't have to make breakfast. So like I said, a really good meal prep option for you guys. Our timer just went off, so let's go check on our pizza. So after 4 minutes, your pizza will look like this. Obviously it's not done, but we're gonna add some eggs to it. So with the back of a spoon here, we're gonna be creating some divots into this pizza. I'm gonna be adding 4 eggs, so I want 4 little holes to go evenly spaced in the pizza. And this is just so when you crack your egg into here, it's not gonna run off and pour into your oven. You want them large enough so it can hold the entire egg. Uh-oh, that one's running off. Let's make these bigger. Back in the oven, we're gonna go for 6 minutes. While our pizza's cooking, we're gonna be cutting up some basil. I love the flavor combination of garlic and basil and bacon. So just take off some fresh leaves of basil. If you don't have fresh basil, you could use dried basil too, or you could just completely omit this step. Green onion would work really well here too. It just adds a little pop of color. Actually, tomatoes would be really good on this pizza, but I'm not gonna do that today. So I have a bunch of basil leaves. We're just gonna roll them up just like this and then slice them. All right, so now there are these little strips of basil that we're gonna sprinkle over the top of our pizza once it's finished baking. It's been around 6 minutes. Our pizza's finished baking. Depending on your oven temperature and how thick you made your dough, you might have to cook it longer. So 6 to 8 minutes. But let's check on it. So So here it is right here. This looks really good. The edges are nice and browned. The only thing is I kind of want the egg yolks to be cooked a little bit more. So what we're gonna do is put it back in the oven and we're gonna broil it. We're just gonna broil that on high for a few minutes. Keep your eye on it so it doesn't burn. This is just gonna cook our egg yolks and our egg whites a little bit more. Okay, that looks like the egg yolks are sat a little bit more. I love this too, when you broil it, it gets nice and bubbly and that cheese gets golden browned. And if you like crispy crust, it's gonna crisp up that crust a little bit more. Now we're here just to finish the pizza. We're gonna sprinkle on our basil leaves on top. You'd also wanna add your fresh tomato if you were doing that. I like to add a little bit of flaked salt. I just like salty things and I think it looks pretty on top of pizza. And then you could also do a drizzle of olive oil. That's really delicious, the combination of the oil with the eggs. And now we're ready to eat. It's still hot. The best part about this pizza is the egg yolk. So when you cut into that, it just leaves this beautiful yellow, and you can move it around your pizza so that every single bite has a little bit of that delicious runny egg yolk in it. Or you could, like I said, you could eat this on the go too. It's so delicious, you guys. The flavors, the garlic, the basil, the bacon, the egg, everything works beautifully on this breakfast pizza. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's Keto Focus on YouTube. And also check out my website, ketofocus.com. Like I said, I have a ton of family-friendly, easy keto recipes on there. Thanks for cooking with me. Bye.